Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am LaShawn, your host, and friends. We are at the end of April. I feel like every month I'm surprised, and I don't know why at this point. But anyway, May is upon us, and for us parents in the South, it is that time of year when the schools plan everything. I mean, all of your standardized testing, all of the end of the year activities, and we find that we need to be present for some activity nearly daily for the next 4 weeks. Literally, we are going to be running like chickens with our heads cut off. But this is going to be bittersweet for me, kind of, because of course my son is ending his 11th grade year. There is spring football, and he has some AP testing in addition to all the other stuff that he has to do. I am already tired, friends. I am already tired, but eager to get it over with. But anyway, I just came back from a trip from DC. And while I was there for some work, and while I was there, I got to visit Mahogany Bookstore, which is a Black-owned bookstore near the harbor. And I have a goal of finding a Black-owned bookstore if I go to a different city other than the one I live in. And of course, once I got there, I had to support them, and I got 2 books. I got 2 books. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see them. I got Chloe by Connie Briscoe, small book, which is a retelling of the classic Rebecca by Daphne Demure. It's a domestic suspense around a woman who marries a Black billionaire only to discover that he remains haunted by his first wife, who took her own life. Or did she? If you've read Rebecca, you know where this is going. And I got The Art of Loving You by Natasha Bishop, which is a contemporary romance and the second in her Forever Falling series. It sounds like a second chance romance. I loved her first book, and so did most of the internet, and I cannot wait to read this one. But y'all, my TBR is so bad, especially my physical book TBR. Oh my God, it is off the chain. I'm literally returning library books because I just cannot get to them. I've been sent a lot of books. It was my birthday month, and so I received a lot of gifts of books, money for books, trips to bookstores as gifts, and I got some ARCs, and so my physical to-do TBR list is crazy. Anyway, but that's a first world problem. Anyway, I was offline a lot of last week, only glancing at, socials or posting and getting off. But as usual, I missed nothing and everything. Bookish social media was full of the same arguments, and someone was even attempting to bully Tracy Dion for. I think they were attempting to bully her because she didn't jump up and down and what for joy when they met when it was at a book signing. Crazy. And BookCon seemed there was a lot of discourse around that. And then as I scrolled, I kept seeing the same arguments over and over and over again. And y'all, I'm tired. So today I want to talk, this is a little rant. I want to talk about some bookish conversations or discourse that I am tired of hearing about. And I'm begging you all to let it go. Let it go. Anyway, so let's get into it. The first conversation that I'm tired of, the first piece of discourse that I'm tired of, and I need y'all to lay this to rest, is the conversation around audiobooks don't count as reading. Friends. First of all, why do you care? That is like the number one question. Why is this so polarizing? Why do you care? Second of all, there are repeated studies that prove that this is wrong. For instance, there's a recent study published in the Harvard Gazette, Harvard University, that states that not only does the brain operate the same when reading print books or listening to audiobooks, but that the learning process is also the same. I'm going to read you a quote from that article that I will make sure that I link in the show notes just because I want to get my point across real quick. Reading is a complex skill that involves the early development of brain regions that support sound and language processing, which is the essential milestone skills for learning to read, said Gabe, who is one of the experts that they have in the article. The neural networks that process written and oral language are deeply intertwined and largely overlap when reading print books or listening to audiobooks. There isn't much of a difference between the brain network for reading and the brain network for language comprehension. The brain area we call the letterbox, which processes print, is not as engaged when you listen, but it has been shown that when some people listen to words, they visualize them. So the letterbox gets activated as well. So basically, what does that mean? It means that it doesn't matter how you get the information is still processed the same. So what it really boils down to, friends, is preference. Do you? Reading is reading no matter how you get it in. Okay? Let's bury this argument. Let's move on. Let's move on to another topic and let's just keep it moving. I swear I'm going to block and report the next person I see posting about it as spam because at this point you're just trolling us because every time someone posts one of these, everyone gangs up in the comments and is like, mind your business or shows you like all these studies that prove opposite. So at this point, y'all ignorant and you're just trolling us. But that's all. Okay. All right. My next pet peeve, or what I'm tired of hearing folks ask about, is the whole you can't possibly read that many books discourse. A few statistics for you all. Okay. Let me start with that. Only 32% of the US population reads books for pleasures. The average American reads only 12 books a year. And 42% of college graduates never read another book after college. So when I see these statistics, I can see why people would have reservations and doubts about people reading so many books because, those statistics are bleak. But there are those of us who like reading. We are the target audience. We love reading so much that there is a whole new section of TikTok that developed that grew up around that love. This is what BookTok came from. It is a billion-dollar industry right now. And books are sold and not sold based on people's preferences and what they see on BookTok, which is a whole nother discourse that we'll talk about another day because I don't want to go too far there. But the point is, yes, there are people who confuse collecting books with reading them. And yes, those are two separate different hobbies. But yes, there are also people who read only one genre. So what? Yes, there are people who read over 100 books a year. Hell, I've seen people who read over 200 and I'm like, woo-wee, y'all another level. And it's hard for a lot of people to believe that someone would dedicate that much time to reading because let's be honest, because a lot of people don't have the attention span for it and they can't understand how someone else does. But I always say, I am a fast reader, I learned in high school when I had to skim read large textbooks at an alarming rate. I don't watch a lot of TV. There are people who sit up there and they binge watch shows and they'll tell you they watched a whole show, 8 episodes of a whole series in a day. And they'll tell you that every day they binge watch a new show. Okay, so you binge watch a new show. I read books like that. You know what I mean? I don't watch a lot of TV. I always have a book with me and I have dedicated reading time every day. If you really like something, you make time for it. And I want people to recognize that. And just in case you still think I'm off or that those of us who read so much are off, let me give you one more statistic. Reading for just 6 minutes a day can reduce your stress levels by 68%. So, we real unstressed over here. Real. That's just one of the things. I want people to recognize that everybody has different things, different hobbies, different loves. You may want to binge watch that show. You may want to binge watch every season of Love Island. I have never seen it. Why? Because I've been reading a book instead. And neither one of us is wrong. Neither one of us is right. We just all have our preferences, and I want everybody to recognize that and mind the business and keep it moving. Okay? All right. The next one, the next one. Romance books don't have to have a happily ever after. This one irks my soul. So let's clear this up once and for all. According to the organization, the Romance Writers for America, the people who are in charge of all the people who write the books, the romance books, they talk about it it's clear on their website. I will leave a link. Romance is defined as the following. Number one, a central love story. The main plot centers around individuals falling in love and struggling to make a relationship work. A writer can include as many subplots as they want as long as the love story is the main focus of the novel. The second thing that all romance novels must have is an emotionally satisfying and optimistic ending. In a romance, the lovers who risk and struggle for each other and their relationships are rewarded with emotional justice and unconditional love. AKA, it must be a happy for now or a happily ever after ending. The end. Otherwise, if it doesn't do that, friends, it's called women's fiction. A prime example of this is a book I think I talked about last year, Slanting Towards the Sea by Lidija Hilje. It was a love story, but the two main characters, this is a spoiler, are not together at the end. There is no happily ever after for the main couple. It's literary fiction. The end. Okay? Also, and this is another thing. I'm just on my soapbox right now. Wuthering Heights is also not a love story. It's a tragedy, possibly a horror. It's about obsession, not love. Hope that helps you. Okay? Okay. Alrighty. I could go on. I could get on my soapbox with several other topics, even about like the one that I'm tempted to go off on is about the word smut and how it always refers to books written by women that have sex scenes that advance the plot and show the growing relationship and connection between the two characters. But smut does not refer to anything, say, like the Game of Thrones series, in which I've read some of the most incestuous, violent, non-consensual, weirdest shit ever, excuse my language, but since it's written by a male, it's not considered smut. It's just a thought. But I digress. Okay, friends, let me get off my soapbox and turn to what is currently going on in my reading life. I am deep in advanced copies and deeply behind in my reading. In fact, I stopped everything when a copy of Furybound by Sable Sorrenson magically appeared in my inbox last week. It's out May 5th, next Tuesday. This is the follow-up to Direbound, one of my favorite discoveries of last year. I think I talked about it earlier this year when I reread it in prep for this book. This book is the second book in the Wolves of Ruin series, which is labeled as dark romantasy. And I can see how, but not really. It's full of wolves and vampires and magic and enemies to lovers. I was rabid to get my hands on this one. And let me tell you what I thought. Let's talk about it. The entire book, it felt like this series was meant to be a duology to me. I swear. I could feel it building to a natural conclusion and kept stopping to make sure that this was supposed to be a trilogy. I loved the slow burn change from enemies to lovers that we experienced in this book between our two main characters. I love the further world building. I love that we got character growth for Meryn and Stark. I love the introduction of new characters. I love that we got Stark's point of view because, I love a dual point of view, but I also love that his point of view wasn't like every other chapter. Like when we got it, it was important. And plus, when we got it, his point of view tended to leave out things. But anyway, I love the pace and I never felt like there was a lull when I got bored. It moved fast. There was literally something significant happening on every page and every chapter. But at the last two chapters, I kept saying, but why is there a third book? But why? Until the last, I'll say, 3 pages when it became clear. Now, while the cliffhanger here is not as explosive, you might want to say, as the first book, it does leave you both confused and concerned and a little scared. I had to sit with it for a few days, but I'm going to give it a strong 4, maybe 4.25 because I can't wait to get my hand on the next book. I have to see what everyone's reaction is to what happened in those last 3 pages, specifically Meryn. I want to know how she's gonna take that. I want to know the consequences of these actions. I want to know if it can happen again. But I can't give away too much because you might want to read it. Anyway, yes, that got a strong 4. I might move that up to a 4.25. I'm not sure. Hell, it might get a 4.5 by the time I officially write this down. Now, let's get to what is currently on my TBR until the end of the week, because this is the last week of April. I have, like I said before, I have quite a backup. I have so many backups that I have to return like 6 books to the library today because I'm just not going to get to them. I'm just not. I keep renewing them and I'm like, sis, I'm just not going to get to them. Somebody else can read these books and I can come back later and get them. And plus, I acquired so many new books this month, and it makes no sense. So let's just I'm trying to narrow down what I'm going to read. I'm trying to be strict this week. I'm trying to stick to it and not get distracted. Not to get distracted, friends. So anyway, for my Kindle book, I'm reading Archangel's Eternity by Nalani Singh. This is the 18th and last book in my beloved Guild Hunters series. Elena and Archangel Raphael have spent 1,000 years building a life together, one shaped by love, survival, and everything they've endured along the way. Through war, loss, and moments of beauty, Elena has never lost her immortal heart, and their bond has only grown stronger with time. But now everything is about to change. A massive, unimaginable shift threatens not only their future, but the fragile peace held by the powerful cadre of 10. Tensions are now rising, war is brewing, and something ancient is stirring in the shadows. As uncertainty closes in, Elaine and Raphael must face what's coming while protecting something more precious to them than eternity itself. Friends, I am 7% into this one and I'm already shook. That's all I'll say for now. This comes out on Tuesday, May 5th, next Tuesday. I have put this book off to the last minute because I literally don't want this series to end. It has been like, I think it started in 2009. I can't even remember, so long ago. I have loved reading these books over the years, and I am really devastated that they're ending. I understand why she might want to end it because really, how many more stories can you tell? We told all of our main characters. I get it. I get it. I get it. But still, it's like, dang, another one bites the dust. And now I have to go own all of them for my bookshelf. Anyway, my physical book, I'm torn between picking up Yesteryear by Carl Claire Burke, which is the most buzziest book of the year so far. It's the book about the internet famous trad wife who wakes up like 18 something and actually has to be a trad wife. It's supposed to be good. I've heard lots of different reviews of it online. I'm curious. And yes, it's one of my physical books that is actually in this house. Or I could read Into the Blue by Emma Brody, which is a decade-spanning love story that also came out this month. Or Score by Kennedy Ryan. The physical art arrived in the mail when I was out of town, and I may have screamed out loud when I opened the package and saw it. It is a second chance romance novel, the second in the Hollywood Renaissance series about screenwriter Verity Hill and musician Wright Monk Bellamy, who reunite to work on a Harlem Renaissance biopic exploring themes of Black art, mental health, LGBTQ plus representation. I'm really anxious, but that one does not come out until mid-May, I think. I think May 16th. Something like that. I will let you know what I pick next week. We shall see what actually gets included in my what I read in April list, what I can finish before what is the last day of April? Wednesday? So we'll see. And on my audiobook, I saw a review of The Secret World of Maggie Gray by Granger, and I remembered that I owned the audiobook and picked it up. The premise: a vampire witch and a siren get accepted into a magical HBCU, and it is set in Atlanta. So yes, I was like, ooh, this sounds like my thing. And there's more than one book, and evidently the next book comes out this summer. So I'm like, oh, this is the perfect time to get into this. So, okay, that's all, friends. This was a short episode, I do believe. We shall see what I get into, and I will update you next time we talk. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and find other bookish friends. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at poringoverbookspod@gmail.com. Or my personal IG at TikTok or TikTok at LaShawn Wiltz. I will talk to you all next week when I will talk about all the books I read in April and what is on my radar for May. And also coming soon, we will have our summer reading list special where I give you some of my most anticipated reads of the summer, and the summer reading guide will be up on my Substack, and I will leave the link for that in the show notes. And also, May, for the Pouring Over Books Book Club, we are reading Beloved by Toni Morrison. So, if you have been waiting for that book all year, or if you have been thinking about reading that book, but you have not wanted to read it alone, you want to read it in community, you want to read it with people who are discussing it to help you get it. Because, yes, I get it, Toni Morrison is hard, but that does not mean we should not read her. If you want to read this classic, if you want to read this Pulitzer Prize winning book, I highly suggest and welcome you to join the Pouring Over Books Book Club this month for May. It is $5 a month, or since it is Mother's Day and it is basically the middle of the year, I am doing a special for 1 month only where you can get 50% off for the rest of the year. So instead of $50, I believe that will be $25. So if you really want to join us, come and join us. We have discussions every week, followed by a Zoom call at the end of the month where we get together and we discuss this book. This month, we have been reading Tar Baby. We're going through all of her books this year, but I know everyone is really wants to read Beloved, but might be scared. So I want to encourage you to join us. Okay. All right. And that is my little spiel for this month. I want to thank you again for listening, and I will talk to you later, friends. Bye-bye.